Let me know when you're all set.
Shade, amazing.
Good. Okay, well, someone's on the phone over here, hang on. Okay, well, good morning Torbanlea, good morning Maryborough, good morning Wide Bay, and good morning Queensland. Well, it's wonderful to be here this morning for a really exciting announcement, and I'm pleased to be joined here. Minister Bailey's with me. We also have the Mayor. We have, very importantly, our local members, of course, Bruce Saunders and, of course, Adrian from Hervey Bay. But today is a fantastic announcement. It's a fantastic day for Maryborough, for Torbanlea, and this entire region, because today we turn the sod on the first $200 million facility to build trains here in Maryborough. This is something my government has been absolutely passionate about, and we're joined today as well with some students from Maryborough High. Now, why is that important? We've got a skills summit coming up, and we want to make sure that young people have a pathway. They are developing the skills that they need to get the jobs. This is a huge investment for this area, $200 million. So early works will start this year, with the major construction happening next year. We've seen similar examples where we've built, where we've had Milveco out in Ipswich, and we've been linking the schools with the training there. So here is exactly the same. These young people, the world is their oyster. They have the opportunity to work here and in train manufacturing if they choose to do so, and the school will help prepare them with those trade qualifications. So I'm looking forward to the Skills Summit next week. We'll be talking a lot about opportunities across Queensland, and of course I look forward to that summit in Canberra next week. But of course our train manufacturing program is over $7 billion. This is a huge investment. Minister Bailey will go into a bit more detail. The site here, you can see early works are already commencing, 120 hectares, and of course we're very excited that there'll be over 800 jobs here in the local area. And I'm quite sure the local publican down the road is going to be pretty excited, because he's going to be very, very busy for many, many years to come. So I'll hand over to Minister Bailey, but also too, you would have seen on the Bruce Highway coming out of Maryborough up to Torbanlea, so much roadworks happening there, $100 million. We'll be looking at some completions of the Saltwater Bridge just after here, but there's a lot happening in the region, and of course very strong advocacy from the local member Bruce Saunders. So I'll hand over to the Minister, and Bruce and others can have a say, and we'll deal with this issue, and then I'm happy to deal with other issues after that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Premier. Look, it's a real pleasure to join the Premier, Bruce Saunders, Assistant Minister for Train Manufacturing, Adrian Tentari, Member for Hervey Bay, and Mayor George Seymour for an historic day. This is where we start the early works for Queensland-made trains by Queensland workers for Queensland passengers. Why are we doing this? Partly because of the fierce advocacy of Bruce Saunders, the member for Maryborough, who saved this town. Because what had happened under the previous government was they were sending the contracts for train manufacturing overseas, taking the jobs away from Maryborough and Queensland workers, and they botched it. They not only did that, they weren't even disability compliant. So as we speak, we've got Maryborough train workers rectifying those overseas ordered trains. We're on the 28th train to rectify at the moment to make them disability compliant. If they'd been built by Queensland workers, they would have been good trains that were compliant, that would have been effective. So this commitment by the Palaszczuk government is all about quality trains, quality jobs, and quality work for workers going on into a whole generation. It's important that we don't make the mistakes of the past, and we see the people who are responsible for sending those train manufacturing jobs overseas are still there. David Crisafulli, Jared Blay, Fiona Simpson, Steve Minikin, they're all still there, and they all went to the last election without any commitment to Queensland-made trains in their costings. So they've learnt nothing from being in opposition for a number of terms. They learnt nothing from losing power because of their excesses and mistakes. And today we are rectifying those gross mistakes and errors from the LNP by making sure that this purpose-built, best practice train manufacturing facility is right here at Torbanlea, very close to Maryborough. We chose this site because it's very close to the rail line, very close to the Bruce Highway, so we can test the trains easily, get the heavy vehicles in off the Bruce Highway easily. It's been a very well selected site, 120 hectares of land, lots of space to do our factory here, and what we'll see is the tendering process is advanced now. We've got 3 different proponents. A decision will be made later this year on who is the successful proponent, and then they will start to construct this facility in 2023. A great day for Maryborough, a great day for Queensland manufacturing workers, and a great day for Queensland. Bruce.
Thanks very much, Minister, and I'd just like to welcome the Premier here. We cast our mind back to 2015 in the election, and Maryborough was like Detroit City. Businesses were closing. We'd lost a train, the NGR contract overseas. We had more empty shops in the CBD you could poke a stick at, and Maryborough was on its knees. Along come the Palaszczuk Labor government, and I must thank the Premier and the Cabinet, because the Premier has been a fierce advocate also to rebuilding Maryborough to be an economic powerhouse again in advanced manufacturing and heavy manufacturing. It's only the way Maryborough has come back has only been possible by the Palaszczuk Labor government. Had the LNP got re-elected, we would have been the backwater again, and even worse than what we were under them. In 3 years, they took Maryborough to its knees. This is what a good Labor government does. And partnering with our schools, with Maryborough High, which is one of our great high schools in the region, we're keeping our youth here. And that was something that I've said when I got elected. We had to get back to manufacturing, but we had to keep our youth in our city and a career path for them so they would stay in our city, rebuild our city, have families, and keep the city going. And that's what's happening now. And this is what a good Labor government does, and this is what the Palaszczuk Labor government has done. Maryboroug's revival has because it's gone back to traditional Labor values. Manufacturing, looking after workers, making sure we've got good education, healthcare, roads, and that's what a good Labor government does, and this is what this government is. And I'm so proud to be the local member today. This is a milestone for this factory. A $200 million investment, 800 jobs in the future here, building trains for Queenslanders, as the Minister said. So Queenslanders riding on a train built in Queensland by Queenslanders in an area that is renowned for its coal. This is the Begowan area, Torbanlea, Howard. It's renowned for its early coal mining here. There was good workers here, good people in this area, good people in the Maryborough electorate. And look, I just can't explain myself today properly in words, because it's so proud to be part of a government that is reviving regional Queensland, to be part of a government that puts regional Queensland skill base and keeping regional Queensland alive is something that I'll take to my grave, that I'll be entirely proud of for the rest of my life, to be serving under a Premier and a Cabinet that has really, really put Queenslanders first.
Adrian, then for me.
Look, I'd like to welcome the Premier, and it's really great to be here today with Bruce Saunders, the Minister and the Mayor, as Bruce and the Premier announce what is just a wonderful commencement of a great enterprise here in Torbanlea. With regards to the people of Hervey Bay and the Fraser Coast, this factory, as it moves forward, will be employing many hundreds of people. The pathways available to students in the future will be enormous. So it's really important that we do the work on the ground here, and I'm really pleased to be here alongside Bruce Saunders, the Premier, the Minister and the Mayor regarding this opening today. It is a massive thing for Fraser Coast, it's a massive thing for the area generally, and it's a massive thing for Queensland.
This is a truly historic day for our community and for the state. Maryborough makes and manufactures things again. The very first train to be built in Queensland was the Mary Ann, built by the skilled workers of Walkers in 1873. I follow the history of Maryborough and the Fraser Coast very closely, and I can tell you that today, and more specifically 2015, is a turning point in our history, and I think the history of Queensland. 2015, Bruce Saunders was elected, the member for Maryborough, and the Palaszczuk government was elected to bring manufacturing back to our community and the state. And you see that between here and Maryborough. Just weeks ago, the Deputy Premier, Stephen Miles, was here turning the sod on the ESI battery factory, which will be absolutely essential in our clean energy future. You'll also see the Hine glue laminate factory, which received marvellous support from Bruce Saunders and the state government. You'll also see the Naya Rheinmetall munitions factory. Factories are opening. Factories are being built like this one today. We are building trains again here in Maryborough and the Fraser Coast. And that is down to the 2015 election result when Bruce Saunders was elected and the state government changed. I want to thank the Premier, the Minister, Bruce and Adrian for their support of our community. This has been a 180-degree turnaround for manufacturing in Maryborough and the Fraser Coast, and it is marvellous for jobs. We have school students here today who can see a very bright future. We have apprentices in factories that are learning the skills that they are inheriting from their grandparents. I feel so confident that we are making things again here on the Fraser Coast and that we are leading the way in manufacturing.
Look, thanks, George. And of course, this region is an economic powerhouse. It's part of Queensland, but the future is so bright here. And if I was a young person here, I would be so proud to have someone like Bruce and George and Adrian in their local area that is giving them this opportunity. This is what being in government is all about. It's these young people over here today saying to them, you have a bright future. You can have a career, you can live locally, you can raise your family here, and you can be part of a community that is strong, that is vibrant, and that you have a government that backs you. This is what a Labor government is all about. It's about making sure we've got these jobs locally. And the investment that we're putting in here is the likes of which no one has ever done before. It is a Labor government, my government, our government, that is investing in the regions and is investing in you. Okay, we're happy to take some questions.
Right now we do have a skilled worker right now. I guess how confident are you that these jobs will be filled in the future?
I think these are secure jobs, they're long-term jobs, and I think they're going to be very attractive to young people. And also too, what we're seeing is people from other parts of Australia are wanting to come and live in our regions as well. So there's huge opportunities. And I think when we're talking about skills shortages, anywhere you go, you see vacancy signs at the moment. And we need to really have a conversation about how are we going to get the skilled migration as well that we need. But I think we're ahead of the game because what we're doing here is we're saying we're partnering our schools with the industries that need the jobs. So I think there's a very clear pathway here that we're mapping for the state. So I'm looking forward to releasing our workplace strategy next week that I will take personally down to the Skills Summit in Canberra.
We're in a bit of a housing crisis here at the moment as well. If we do have people travelling interstate or from other parts of Queensland, are you confident we'd be able to house them so they can work here?
Well, of course, housing is a national issue. It's happening right across the nation as well. So, of course, we're investing extra money into housing. There's issues at the moment with supplies. We've recently seen a collapse of another building company just announced yesterday. There is a strong future, but we need to make sure that we've got the skills for people to actually get into the industry and stay in the industry.
Social service providers and organisations are calling on the government to help ease living and housing crisis pressures across the regions by freezing rent for struggling families. Is this something that the government will consider?
Look, we can't do that. But what we are doing is we've got the largest investment of housing happening as well, over $2.9 billion, and that money is being spent across the state. It's not concentrated in one particular region.
How many jobs are we hoping to create through this new project?
Well, we'll be, this one here,
Yes.
This is about 800 long-term jobs here in Maryborough, which is fantastic. This is definitely a jobs bonanza day here for the region. And I know, Bruce, you will not be able to wipe that smile off Bruce's face for the next 10 years, for at least the next decade. But, you know, even talking to the young people here today, they're excited by the future. They're excited that we've got these industries staying here and growing here. Look at this site behind us. You know, nothing is here at the moment, but, you know, there is going to be a huge manufacturing site here, $200 million investment. And any young person that's living in Torbanlea only has to walk down here and be able to work close to home.
So can you tell us what housing investment the government is bringing to regional Queensland?
Oh, look, I'll get the housing minister to give you the exact details on that. Yep. Okay.
Just on the Oracle, going back to the building.
Yeah, yeah.
As a government, is there any building companies that go down to the
Well, this is a big issue. It's happening with a number of our building companies, and you know, I'm advised that it's been reported that 300 homes remain unfinished, 70 people have lost their jobs, and $14 million owed to creditors. So, if a person was building with this company, they can talk to the appointed liquidators, but also I understand too that as part of the home warranty scheme, the Queensland Building and Construction Commission will look to engage builders to complete or rectify those homes.
Are you satisfied with the QBCC's handling of the company, given it does owe $14 million?
Well, now they're kicking into what they're supposed to do, which is in relation to this home warranty scheme. Yep.
In regards to the CFMEU,
Yes.
do you condemn that behaviour that happened yesterday?
I absolutely condemn that behaviour. It is disgraceful. It is putting workers' safety at risk. It has no place in our work environment. And, you know, honestly, this has got to stop. I heard reports that people felt unsafe in their workplace. No worker should go to work fearing for their safety, for their personal safety. And it is disgraceful behaviour.
Just back to the Oracle as well.
Yep.
Some customers have complained that the QBCC should have intervened earlier and have a lot to answer for. Are you concerned the QBCC ignored the red flags?
Well, that's a matter for the QBCC to respond. I'm not speaking for them. All I am saying, though, is in relation to that home warranty scheme, they can look at those particular matters. There are at the moment there are big issues with, you know, building companies across the nation in relation to the rising costs of supplies. That's nothing new, but people put all of their life savings into their homes, whether it's a new home or upgrading to a home, and, you know, they want to feel safe that that home will be completed.
Will you be
Just on
returning
that-
donations to the CFMEU following this behaviour? Is that something you'll consider just like the South Australian government did?
Well, what I'm saying today is that matter, I understand, will be looked at by police. So I will wait to see what the police say. But that footage is incredibly disturbing. And I would have hated being a person there with that happening. Like, you know, they owe an apology to those workers who were subjected to that and who felt unsafe.
The LNP wants a full commission of inquiry into the QBCC. Do you have the confidence in them?
There was already a thorough review that was done by, from memory, Jim Varghese, and they're acting on those recommendations. Yeah.
And Premier, just with the state, the industry is in at the moment. We're seeing those material shortages.
Yes.
Can we expect to see any more collapses in the future?
Well, this is what I'm saying to people. Like, you know, they're putting all their life savings into these companies, and we are seeing, unfortunately, increases in prices and cost of materials and everything. And I think people really need to sit down and talk to these building companies to give them an assurance that everything is okay. So the majority of our companies are fine, but there are some companies, like we've seen with Oracle, unfortunately, where we've got 300 people now who would be very distressed. Yeah. Okay.
Just more on the CFMEU. Should there be an investigation into them storming a government building?
Well, that's what I said, that those matters are now with the police, so the police need to do their. I'm not going to comment on that police matter.
Right. And what do you make of reports of assaults against public servants?
Well, if there was an assault, and once again the police will look at that, completely unacceptable. Okay.
Last one on Oracle, sorry. What can the state government do to protect the industry as well as those individuals that have been caught up in this?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's very important that people familiarise themselves with the contracts they're entering into. They speak to the owners, the people who they're sitting down with the contracts. They get legal advice, just to reassure themselves. But like I said to you, this is happening across the nation, and unfortunately, it's happened in this situation.
Premier, do you think the home warranty scheme will need to be rejigged or boosted in some way, given the escalation in housing construction collapse?
Actually, I'll look at how many staff they do have there, so that's a very good point. So I'll talk to Minister de Brenni about that. Yep.
There's been a number of incidents of gun violence in Queensland over the last few months. Is it something the state government is concerned about?
I think any form of gun violence that is disturbing for the public and definitely for the people involved. And I know that the police and the police minister are very conscious of this, and as they are operational matters, I will leave that to the police to respond. But people expect to be able to be in their community safely.
Thank you. Questions for Minister Bailey at all?
Yeah, sure. Okay? Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks.
Minister Bailey, when did you film your video to be presented at the event yesterday?
Yeah, let's be very clear about a few things here. I did yesterday indicate that I wasn't scheduled to it. I was actually on the program, but on Monday morning I was required to be at the Cabinet Budget Review Committee to meet on Tuesday morning. The Premier chairs that. I'm a member of that committee as a senior minister. I was required to be there. So once I was aware of that mid-morning on Monday, I then had a shoot of video for me to be presented there, because I couldn't be in two places at once. So let's be very clear that that was a sequence, and any suggestion that that was not to be factual is simply not right.
So that's exactly when you told the meeting that you wouldn't be attending that mid-Monday morning, is that right?
The department knew mid-Monday morning that I couldn't attend the briefing. I like to do those if I can possibly do it, and that's why I was on the program. But I had to be at Cabinet Budget Review Committee on Tuesday morning, which was called on Monday morning. The department was aware of that. That's why we shot the video, because I wasn't able to be there due to other commitments.
What exactly did you discuss at that meeting? Why was it so important that you were to be there?
Well, the Cabinet Budget Review Committee is a Cabinet committee, so I'm not at liberty to discuss the agenda. But as a senior minister, I'm a member of that committee, as is the Premier and other senior ministers. And when it meets, I'm required to be there. There's no choice there.
It's mandatory.
Yes, thank you, Premier. Absolutely mandatory. It is. Yeah.
The opposition has actually called you a coward and a liar for not attending. What do you have to say to that?
Look, the LNP, these are the same people, Christopher Foley, Jared Blay, Steve Medican, who botched public transport, who sent the trains overseas, who behaved incredibly arrogantly, who lied about the laptop for 5 months. Press conference after press conference after press conference. And last month, when the independent CCC report showed that it was a sham and fake and it was a mischaracterisation, did we hear any apologies from them? Did we hear them acknowledge that they'd misled Queenslanders for many months? No. They actually said that the Newman government was better than the Palaszczuk government. So what you see from the LNP is they've learned absolutely nothing from the excesses of Campbell Newman and a government that David Crisafulli and Jared Blay were senior ministers in. They have learned absolutely nothing. So they can name call me all they like. It only encourages me.
Are you aware the CFMEU was planning to attend Tuesday's meeting?
I was not aware of that. There was no indication made to me in the meeting with Mr Ravbar on the Monday. He gave no indication about that whatsoever, and if he had, I would have raised it immediately with my DG, and we would have made preparations to make sure that our staff were protected. Let me make it really clear. Michael Ravbar he should be making a public apology to the transport and main road workers who were impacted by their appalling behaviour on Tuesday morning. I have backed in our workers from day one as their minister. I take that responsibility seriously, and they were mistreated by his union members on Tuesday, and he should be issuing an apology to those workers who were impacted on it if he has any integrity whatsoever. And let me just close on this. The LNP sacked 14,000 workers, including 2,800 staff in transport and main roads. So I'm not going to hear any fake confections from David Crisafulli that he cares about transport and main road workers. He was part of the sacking of them when he was in power, and I've never heard an apology from him for all those sackings that happened in TMR.
So did you discuss any CFMEU protests at all, including previous protests?
We did not discuss any planned protests by them, and there were issues raised. He's a stakeholder as a leader of workers within my portfolio. I will always meet with industry and representatives of workers. That's my job as a minister. But he gave no indication at all about what he had planned the next day. I find that really two-faced behaviour, and it's unacceptable.
Okay, we've got to wrap it up, guys.
Sorry,
Last one.
Should the government return those donations then, same as South Australian did? Is that something that should be considered?
Well, look, that's a matter for the organisation, but the matter's being looked at by Queensland Police Service, as the Premier said. I endorse her comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.